Hey everyone, welcome back to this segment of Character Chat. Today we'll be meeting with the characters and author of the novel A Farewell to Arms. I'm your host, Olivia Gustorf. Let's meet the characters.
Hi, I'm Liam Reed, and I play Lieutenant Frederick Henry in Farewell to Arms.
Hi, I'm Amanda Vitt, and I play Catherine Barkley in the novel.
Hello, I'm Dylan Holly, and I play Lieutenant Rinaldi.
I am Ernest Hemingway, and I am the author of the book A Farewell to Arms.
So today I will be asking you all a couple of questions about the portrayal of your characters in the novel A Farewell to Arms. My first question that I have for you is, could you give the audience a brief rundown of your characters in this novel?
My character, Lieutenant Frederick Henry, narrated the story as the main character. In the beginning of the book, he meets a beautiful woman named Catherine Barkley, and the two characters soon fall in love. While our characters work through the obstacles of their newfound relationship, I was serving in the war.
Yeah, so just as Liam said, the beginning of our characters' relationship was definitely a little rocky. While Henry was off fighting at the front and driving the ambulances and getting involved in the war, Catherine was staying back at the hospital and was working as a nurse. My character was ultimately devastated when Henry was terribly injured there fighting at the front, but thankfully he did make a full recovery and Catherine was able to work at the hospital he was being treated at, and they were able to spend more time together and ultimately fall deeper in love with each other. The result of our characters' passionate relationship ended, unfortunately, in tragedy.
My character symbolized the brotherhood and the bonds formed during war. He also was a bit of a womanizer and first introduced Henry and Catherine to each other.
Hemingway, what was the mood of your novel and how did your writing style create this mood?
So, the mood created is most simply expressed as devastation and hopefulness. My use of foreshadowing of the tragic ending led to the reader feeling devastation during the scenes of war and death, but also in the Henry and Catherine's relationship. For example, rain symbolized obstacles that the couple would have to overcome, and then, therefore, whenever rain was involved, the reader would know that something terrible was about to happen. My use of diction was also intended to make the reader feel hopeful during the obstacles in Henry and Catherine's relationship.
How do you think that your characters' actions contributed to the overall theme of the book?
My character's relationship with Catherine shows both themes of warfare and love. The treacherous situation they are in forces their love to be tested, but they remain together despite the risk of losing each other at any moment. Henry's character also shows the horrors and inhumanity of war as he fights at the front and loses almost all of the men that he fought beside.
My character's actions as well as her experiences perfectly contribute to the theme of love as well as loss throughout the book. She experienced a great deal of both continuously. She had a husband, but he tragically died. She was in love with Henry, but he was off fighting the war at the front and wasn't there with her. I won't reveal the ending, but the way the book finishes provides just how critical Catherine's role in this book was in relaying the themes of love as well as loss.
My character simply added to the theme of war. Since Rinaldi was a doctor, he continuously saw the effects the war had on people both physically and emotionally, and he saw the extent to which it could harm people.
Do you think that the setting is a key part of this novel? If so, why?
Yeah, setting is definitely essential to the plot of the book. Since World War I is progressing throughout the book, the plot would be completely different if it didn't take place during World War
I definitely agree. However, the setting is also important in terms of gender roles. So this story takes place during World War I, which was happening in the early 40s, and was a time when women were ultimately inferior to men in society. Women rarely worked, and their sole purpose was basically to be a wife and have a family. In the book, Catherine takes on a typical role and a typical job for women during the time of war. She worked as a nurse. Hemingway made the male characters both domineering and supremely competent, while he made the portrayal of female characters very submissive. If this book took place during a later time period, the role of men and women would most likely be different, hence the changing plot of this novel.
Rinaldi is the typical example of a womanizer. Without the setting set in this time period, much of the humor that came from my character just simply would not have been the same. The story was set in Italy, and it's made clear through my character's use of diction that he is from Italy. For example, Rinaldi continuously uses the word baby when addressing Henry, and that may be confusing to some readers if they don't fully understand the setting of this novel.
Hemingway, what was your purpose in writing this book? Did you have any personal feelings, experiences? What influenced you into writing this book?
Mainly, I wanted to share my own personal feelings and experiences during the war. Since a lot of the events in the book are based off of my own life, I was actually an ambulance driver for the Italian army during World War I, for example, and I did meet a nurse in the hospital in Milan after being injured, just like in the book. This isn't a complete true story, but I wanted to include some of my own experiences so that the reader could understand my dislike for the war.
My last question for you is, what do you feel were your character's most notable scenes in this novel?
Henry's most notable scene in the novel was the scene where he shoots at the two sergeants because they did not obey his orders. This scene showed the reader the inhumane side of Henry's personality. It changed the reader's view of Henry because it showed how impulsive and inhumane he really is.
I think that Catherine would most likely be remembered for her neediness, which is seen throughout the beginning of the book, when her and Henry had just began hanging out, and at the beginning of their relationship, she needed to hear Henry say things like, "I love you," even though they hadn't known each other for very long at all. This craziness didn't last long, but it definitely left the impression that Catherine had bad experiences with her relationships in the past.
That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Be sure to watch next week on a new segment.